A significant shift in our weather is on the horizon. After weeks of mild, damp, and frankly rather dull conditions across much of the country, we are looking at the potential for a proper cold spell arriving later this month. And I want to take you through exactly what the models are showing, because there have been some genuinely interesting developments. Let me start with where we are right now. Across Scotland, particularly the Highlands, temperatures have already dipped below freezing in places. Meanwhile, down in the southwest from Cornwall through Devon into Somerset, it has been unseasonably mild. Double figures in some spots. Heavy rain warnings have been issued for parts of Somerset this morning. That contrast across the country could not be more stark. The reason for this is straightforward. We have low-pressure systems out to the west of the UK, whilst high pressure sits over continental Europe. This is creating a southerly airflow, bringing in that mild, moist Atlantic air. And this pattern has been remarkably persistent. Looking at the Met Office forecast for today, we have two main bands of rain moving through. One across western Scotland into Northern Ireland, with some heavier bursts at times. Another band affecting northeast Scotland, much of northern England, and central and southern parts of England and Wales. The rain will be on and off through the day, low cloud and murky conditions associated with this system. Between these bands, there are some brighter spells. Central and northern parts of Scotland will see the best of the sunshine. Perhaps East Anglia down into Kent might catch some brighter skies as well. Temperatures reaching 10 or 11 Celsius across southern England and Wales, whilst Scotland, Northern Ireland and northern England see more like 5 to 7 degrees. Tonight, these bands of cloud and rain push north and east. Some clearer skies developing across Northern Ireland, Wales and the West Country ahead of the next system moving in for Tuesday. Temperatures generally between 4 and 7 Celsius overnight. Tuesday brings a fairly cloudy start, though there will be some bright spells around. The remnants of this weekend-S weather systems move out into the North Sea, allowing most places to become dry and bright. However, the next area of low pressure brings rain and stronger winds to Northern Ireland, Western Wales and parts of Cornwall by the afternoon. Gales around the coast are possible. Temperatures up to 10 or 11 degrees in the southeast, elsewhere generally 7 to 8 degrees. Now, here is where it gets interesting. The models are showing a significant pattern change developing around the 24th to the 29th of January, possibly a bit shorter, possibly a bit longer. But the signals are becoming increasingly consistent. What we are looking at is a breakdown of the current mild regime. High pressure begins to build up towards Scandinavia. When this happens, those Atlantic low-pressure systems can no longer push straight across the UK. Instead, they get deflected southwards, sliding down towards Spain and France. The jet stream backs off to the south. When this pattern establishes, the wind direction across the UK turns from southerly to easterly. And an easterly wind in late January means cold air from the continent. The GFS model run from earlier today has been particularly striking. It shows the wind backing from a southeasterly direction to a proper easterly by around the 25th of January. High pressure remains anchored to the north and northwest of the UK. An area of low pressure slides through France, and the UK finds itself in a much colder regime. The GFS is showing the minus 10 degree line at 850 hectopascals moving over the UK by the end of January. That is bitterly cold air at altitude, which would bring temperatures at the surface well below freezing. We could be looking at minus 5 to minus 8 Celsius in places, particularly overnight. More significantly, the GFS shows an area of low pressure bumping into this cold air around the 27th of January. When you have a low pressure system interacting with a cold continental air mass, you get the potential for significant snowfall. And I mean proper snow, not the marginal sleet and rain mix we often see. If the cold air is already established, any precipitation falls as snow rather than rain. The Canadian model, the GEM, shows a similar pattern. High pressure building to the north, low pressure sliding southwards through France, winds turning easterly by the 25th or 26th, the blocking pattern strengthening to the north. The minus 10 line sitting just off the east coast by the very end of the month. The Icon model from Germany also shows this general theme. A southeasterly initially, turning to a proper easterly by around the 25th, with colder conditions filtering in from the east. Now, I want to be clear about the uncertainty here. The ensemble models show a range of outcomes. The GFS operational run is currently one of the colder solutions. Not all ensemble members are as enthusiastic about the cold spell. Some show the Atlantic influence returning more quickly. Others suggest a briefer cold snap. But what is significant is the cross-model agreement on the general pattern. The UKMO, the GFS, the ECMWF, the GEM, and the ICON are all showing some degree of easterly component developing later this month. The disagreement is over the intensity and duration, not the direction of change. The background signals are supportive of this pattern. Both the Arctic Oscillation and the North Atlantic Oscillation are trending negative. When these indices are negative, blocking patterns are more likely to form to the north or northeast of the UK. This is exactly what we need for an easterly regime to establish. For those of you who remember the Beast from the East in February 2018, this pattern has some similarities. Blocking high to the north, cold continental air being drawn westward across the UK. I am not saying we are looking at a repeat of that event. The Beast from the East brought temperatures of -14 in parts of Scotland and significant snow across the country. What the models are showing currently is less extreme than that, but it could still be significant. If the GFS solution verifies, we could see widespread frosts, with temperatures dropping to -5 or colder inland. Snow showers would affect eastern and southeastern coastal areas in a proper easterly flow. Any weather fronts moving in from the Atlantic would bring the risk of more widespread snow, particularly across central and eastern areas. Scotland would likely see the earliest and most persistent cold conditions. The Scottish Highlands have already experienced snow earlier this month. A sustained easterly would bring further wintry showers to northeastern Scotland, the central belt, and down into parts of northern England. Aberdeen, Edinburgh, and Newcastle would be in the firing line for wintry showers in an easterly regime. East Anglia has been waiting for some proper winter weather. This pattern has the potential to deliver. An easterly flow brings cold air directly off the North Sea, with snow showers affecting exposed coasts. If a low-pressure system tracks across the south whilst cold air is in place, more significant snowfall becomes possible. The Midlands have had a particularly quiet winter so far. Temperatures around 7 degrees, grey skies, nothing remarkable. That could change dramatically if this pattern verifies. For the southeast, including London, proper cold is less common. Many of you down there do not keep snow shovels to hand, and fair enough. But if the coldest scenarios verify, even the southeast could see some wintry conditions. Not necessarily deep snow, but frost, ice, and the possibility of some accumulating snow if low pressure interacts with the cold air in the right way. What should you be doing to prepare? Nothing dramatic at this stage. The pattern is still over a week away, and models can and do change. But it would be sensible to ensure you have basics in place. Check your heating system is working properly. If you rely on oil or LPG, consider topping up. Make sure you have adequate supplies in case cold weather makes travel difficult for a few days. For those of you with elderly relatives or neighbours, keep an eye on them during any cold spell. Cold weather payments are triggered when temperatures are forecast to be at or below zero for 7 consecutive days. If this pattern verifies, many areas could qualify. If you have outdoor pipes or taps, check they are adequately lagged. Water damage from burst pipes during a cold snap is entirely preventable with proper preparation. For drivers, make sure you have winter essentials in the car. A blanket, a torch, a fully charged mobile phone, perhaps some chocolate or energy bars. In genuinely cold conditions, breakdowns become more serious. Basic preparation makes a significant difference. The key dates to watch are around the 24th to the 25th of January. That is when the models suggest the pattern change begins. By the 27th or 28th, if the colder solutions verify, we could be looking at genuinely wintry conditions across much of the country. I will be monitoring the model runs closely over the coming days. There will undoubtedly be changes as we get closer. The exact positioning of the high pressure, the track of any low-pressure systems, and the timing of the cold air arrival will all become clearer. What I can say with reasonable confidence is that the current mild, damp regime is not going to last indefinitely. The signals for a colder spell later this month are genuine. How cold, how long, and how widespread the impacts will be remains to be seen. For now, enjoy the relatively mild conditions if you are in the south. Make sensible preparations without panic, and watch this space for updates as the pattern develops. If you found this analysis useful, do consider subscribing for further updates. The weather over the next fortnight could prove to be rather interesting.